Hey everyone, and welcome back to the channel. Today we're diving deep into a profound statement from one of the most influential thinkers of our time, Dr. Cornel West. It's a statement that I believe holds the key to unlocking a more compassionate and just world. And it's one that challenges us to look beyond simple feelings and towards powerful action. Dr. West once said, and it's truly powerful, empathy is not simply a matter of trying to imagine what others are going through, but having the will to muster enough courage to do something about it. Take a moment with that. Empathy is not simply a matter of trying to imagine what others are going through, but having the will to muster enough courage to do something about it. In a world that often feels fractured, where divisions seem to deepen by the day, the concept of empathy is thrown around a lot. We hear it in political speeches, in humanitarian appeals, even in self-help books. But how often do we truly grasp its full weight? How often do we move beyond just feeling something for someone to actually doing something? That's the core of what we're exploring today. This isn't just a philosophical musing. It's a direct challenge to each one of us. It's an invitation to elevate our understanding of empathy from a passive sentiment to an active, transformative force. And crucially, it requires courage, real, tangible courage. Think about it. We live in an age of unprecedented information. We see images, videos, and stories from across the globe, bringing the struggles of others directly into our living rooms. We might see a child suffering from hunger, a family displaced by war, or an individual facing discrimination. And in those moments, most of us feel something, don't we? A pang of sadness, a knot in our stomach, a sense of injustice. We imagine what it might be like. We try to understand.
But Dr. West's statement pushes us further. He says, that's not enough. That's merely the first step. Let's dissect the first part of his quote. Empathy is not simply a matter of trying to imagine what others are going through. This is where many of us stop. We believe that if we can put ourselves in someone else's shoes, if we can mentally walk a mile in their struggles, then we've done our empathic duty. We've felt for them. We've understood them. And while imagination is a critical gateway to empathy, it's not the destination. Imagine for a moment. Someone tells you they've lost a loved one. You might close your eyes and try to recall a time you experienced profound grief. You try to conjure up that feeling, that emptiness, that pain. That's imagining. It helps you connect, absolutely. But what if that's all you do? What if you just sit with that imagined feeling and then move on with your day? Has that truly served the person who was suffering? This passive form of empathy, while well-intentioned, can sometimes lead to what I call empathic fatigue, or even empathic performativity. We see a problem, we feel a fleeting emotion, perhaps we even post something on social media to express our solidarity, and then we move on. We've checked the box of caring, but have we truly made a difference? Think about the difference between sympathy and empathy. Sympathy is feeling for someone. I feel sorry for you. Empathy is feeling with someone. I understand what you're going through. But Dr. West takes it a step further. He's saying true empathy isn't just feeling with, it's being willing to step into that feeling and then use that connection to fuel action. The danger of stopping at imagination is that it can become a form of emotional tourism. We visit someone's pain, we observe it from a safe distance, and then we return to our comfortable lives, relatively unchanged. It can even be a way to avoid the discomfort of real engagement. Because once you truly understand someone's plight, once you've genuinely imagined their experience, the natural next step is to ask, what can I do? And that question, my friends, is where courage comes in. This is the bridge that Dr. West is building for us. The bridge from thought to deed, from feeling to force.
And this brings us to the second and arguably most crucial part of Dr. West's statement, but having the will to muster enough courage to do something about it. This is where the rubber meets the road. This is where empathy graduates from a noble sentiment to a powerful engine for change. The will to muster enough courage. That phrase alone is packed with meaning. Why will? Because action isn't always convenient. It's often difficult, messy, and requires sacrifice. It asks us to step out of our comfort zones, to confront unpleasant truths, and sometimes to risk our own sense of security or comfort. The will is that internal resolve, that steadfast determination that says, despite the obstacles, despite the fear, I will act. It's the internal fire that compels you forward. What stops us from acting? Often, it's fear. Fear of failure, fear of judgment, fear of making things worse, fear of not knowing enough, fear of personal cost. We might imagine what someone is going through, and then a cascade of anxieties kicks in. What if I say the wrong thing? What if I can't really help? What if it's too big of a problem for me? These fears, if left unchecked, can paralyze that emerging will. They can turn our deep feelings of empathy into mere fleeting thoughts. And this is precisely why Dr. West emphasizes courage. Courage isn't the absence of fear, it's the willingness to act in spite of fear. It's that moment when your moral compass points clearly and you decide that the discomfort or the risk of action is far less significant than the cost of inaction. It's the decision to lean into the discomfort for the sake of another or for the sake of justice. Courage in this context isn't always about grand, heroic gestures. While those are vital, true courage is often found in the small, everyday choices we make. It's the courage to have an uncomfortable conversation, the courage to stand up for someone who isn't there to defend themselves, the courage to admit you don't know something and ask how you can help. The courage to donate your time, your resources, or your voice, even when it feels like a drop in the ocean. Think about the ripple effect. One act of courage, born from genuine empathy, can inspire another and another until it creates a wave of positive change. It transforms a private feeling into a public force. History is replete with examples of individuals who exemplified this very principle. Figures like Martin Luther King Jr., whose empathy for the oppressed fueled his unwavering courage to challenge systemic injustice, or Nelson Mandela, whose profound understanding of the suffering of his people gave him the will to endure decades of imprisonment and still emerge with a vision of reconciliation. Their empathy wasn't just about imagining what it was like to be marginalized. It was about having the indomitable will to dismantle those systems of marginalization, no matter the personal cost. And it's not just about historical giants. It's about the everyday heroes among us. The teacher who notices a struggling student and goes above and beyond to provide support. The neighbor who checks in on an elderly person living alone. The person who sees an injustice online and takes the time to educate themselves and then shares accurate information, becoming an advocate. These are all acts of courageous empathy. The will to act, fortified by courage, is what truly builds bridges. It's what transforms abstract compassion into concrete change. It acknowledges that while we can't fix every problem, we can always do something. And that something might just be the spark that ignites a larger movement. This isn't about being a savior. It's about being a participant in the collective human effort towards a more just and humane world. It's about recognizing our shared humanity and our shared responsibility. It's about understanding that our destinies are intertwined. The pain of one is, in a very real sense, the pain of all. To truly grasp the power of this idea, let's move beyond the theoretical and into the real. Let's look at stories. Stories of ordinary people who, driven by empathy and armed with courage, chose to do something. These aren't just anecdotes. They are blueprints for how we too can translate our compassion into tangible impact. Our first story takes us to the bustling streets of San Francisco, a city known for its beauty, its innovation, and, unfortunately, its significant homeless population. For years, one woman, who many simply call the Sandwich Lady, has been a quiet beacon of hope. Her name is Kathy. Kathy isn't a millionaire. She doesn't run a massive nonprofit. She's just a regular person with a profound sense of empathy. Every week for over a decade, Kathy has spent hours in her kitchen meticulously making hundreds of sandwiches, packing fruit, and gathering water bottles. And every single week, come rain or shine, she walks the streets of San Francisco distributing these meals directly to the homeless. Her empathy isn't just about seeing people on the street and feeling bad for them. It's about imagining the gnawing hunger, the cold nights, the feeling of invisibility. But crucially, she didn't stop there. She mustered the courage to act. She overcame the potential discomfort of approaching strangers, the physical toll of carrying heavy bags, and the sheer consistency required. She chose to do something, and her something provides not just sustenance, but dignity and a moment of human connection to hundreds of individuals each week. It's a simple act, yes, but it's a powerful testament to the impact of empathetic action. It's a reminder that courage doesn't always roar. Sometimes it's the quiet voice at the end of the day saying, "I'll make more sandwiches tomorrow." Now, let's shift our focus to a different kind of challenge, one faced by countless communities globally. Environmental injustice. This is a story about a small town, let's call it Harmonyville, where residents started noticing a disturbing trend, a surge in unexplained illnesses, particularly among children. Their tap water, once crystal clear, had begun to look and smell strange. The initial response from authorities was dismissive. "It's nothing," they said, "just a coincidence." But the parents of Harmonyville weren't convinced. Their empathy for their sick children wasn't just a fleeting sorrow, it was a burning fire. They imagined the pain of their kids, the worry in their hearts, the long-term health consequences. And that deep personal empathy ignited their will to act. It took immense courage. They were up against powerful corporations and bureaucratic inertia. They organized town hall meetings, often late into the night after long workdays. They collected water samples, sometimes using their own limited funds. They tirelessly knocked on doors, explaining the science, sharing their personal stories of fear and frustration. They faced ridicule, threats, and attempts to divide their community. But their collective will, fueled by a shared courageous empathy for their most vulnerable members, never wavered. They marched, they protested, they lobbied. They learned about environmental regulations and public health laws. They became citizen scientists, legal advocates, and grassroots organizers, all driven by the simple, powerful desire to ensure their children had access to clean, safe drinking water. And after years of relentless effort, they won. They forced the polluters to clean up their act and secured funding for a new, state-of-the-art water treatment plant. Their story is a testament to how courageous empathy, when amplified by a united community, can overcome seemingly insurmountable odds and protect the fundamental human right to health. It's about the courage to say, "Not in our backyard, not to our children." Finally, let's consider a powerful example of individual courage, often found in unexpected places. This is the story of Maya, a high school student who became acutely aware of the struggles faced by undocumented students in her community. She saw friends living in constant fear of deportation, unable to access higher education, and facing immense barriers to achieving their dreams. Her empathy wasn't a distant thought. It was seeing the pain in the eyes of her friends, hearing their whispered anxieties, and understanding the crushing weight of their uncertain futures. Maya could have simply felt bad and moved on. Many do. But her empathy was coupled with an unshakable will to act, and the courage to use her own voice. She was not a politician, not a lawyer. She was a teenager. but she had a microphone and she had a message. Maya started a student club dedicated to supporting undocumented youth. She organized fundraisers for scholarships. More significantly, she began speaking out. She attended school board meetings, presented to local government, and even wrote op-eds for local newspapers. She faced criticism, even some hostility, from those who disagreed with her stance. But her courage, born from a deep personal empathy for her peers, propelled her forward. She educated her community, she advocated for policy changes, and she became a visible champion for those who often felt invisible. Her actions might not have changed national immigration laws overnight, but they transformed her local community. They created a safer, more welcoming environment for undocumented students, inspiring many to pursue their education and their dreams. Maya's story reminds us that age, position, or power are not prerequisites for impactful empathy. All it takes is the will to muster enough courage to do something, no matter how small or daunting that something may seem. It's about the courage to lend your voice when others cannot, to amplify the stories that need to be heard.
These stories are inspiring, aren't they? They show us that Dr. West's profound statement isn't just an ideal. It's a living, breathing reality in the lives of countless individuals. But you might be thinking, that's great for them. But what about me? How do I cultivate that kind of courageous empathy in my own life? That's an excellent question. And the good news is, empathy and the will to act on it are not fixed traits. They are muscles that can be strengthened, skills that can be developed. Let's break down some actionable steps you can take, starting today. Step 1. Practice deep, active listening. This might sound simple, but it's foundational. So often when someone is speaking, we're already formulating our response, or we're distracted by our phones or our own thoughts. True active listening means suspending your judgment, putting aside your own agenda, and truly focusing on understanding the other person's perspective, their emotions, and their experience. It means listening not just to their words, but to the feelings behind their words. Ask open-ended questions. How did that make you feel? What was that experience like for you? Resist the urge to interrupt, to offer quick fixes, or to compare their experience to your own. Sometimes the most courageous act of empathy is simply to hold space for someone's pain, to truly hear them without judgment. This deep listening builds the foundational understanding that fuels authentic empathy. It allows you to move beyond surface-level imagining and truly step into their world, even just for a moment. It's about being fully present.
Step 2. Actively seek diverse perspectives and experiences. Our empathy muscle can atrophy if we only interact with people who think, look, and live exactly like us. To truly understand what others are going through, we need to intentionally expose ourselves to different realities. Read books by authors from different cultural backgrounds or lived experiences. Watch documentaries that explore social issues you're unfamiliar with. Follow diverse voices on social media platforms, not just those that echo your own beliefs. Engage in respectful conversations with people whose views differ from yours, not to change their minds, but to understand their reasoning and their worldview. Travel, if you can, and immerse yourself in different cultures. Even something as simple as trying food from another country can broaden your perspective. The more we understand the vast tapestry of human experience, the more our capacity for empathy expands, and the more likely we are to recognize common threads of humanity that connect us all. It challenges our assumptions and breaks down preconceived notions. Step 3. Find ways to volunteer or get involved in your community. This is where the doing something about it truly begins to take shape. Volunteering is a direct pathway to translating empathy into action. It forces you out of your comfort zone and into direct contact with people who are facing challenges you might only have imagined. Whether it's serving meals at a homeless shelter, mentoring a young person, participating in an environmental cleanup, or assisting at a local animal rescue, hands-on involvement builds a deeper understanding and a stronger will to contribute. It moves empathy from an abstract concept to a lived experience.
When you see the direct impact of your actions, it reinforces your commitment and shows you that even small efforts can make a tangible difference. It also often reveals the systemic issues that create the need for help, further deepening your understanding and fueling your desire for larger-scale change. Start small, but start. Step 4. Use your voice and advocate for justice. Empathy often reveals injustice. When you truly understand the struggles of others, it can ignite a powerful desire to see things made right. Don't underestimate the power of your voice, even if you feel like just one person. Write to your elected officials about issues you care about. Sign petitions that align with your values. Share accurate, well-researched information on social media to raise awareness. Participate in peaceful protests or rallies if you feel moved to do so. Speak up when you witness discrimination or prejudice. Advocacy requires courage, especially when you're speaking out against popular opinion or powerful entities. But your voice, combined with the voices of others, can create a resounding call for change. Remember, silence in the face of injustice is often interpreted as acceptance. Your courage to speak can empower others to do the same.
Step 5. Cultivate self-compassion and resilience. This might seem counterintuitive, but to truly extend empathy and courage to others, you must also extend it to yourself. The work of empathetic action can be emotionally draining. You will encounter suffering, injustice, and sometimes setbacks. If you don't cultivate self-compassion, you risk burnout and disillusionment. Practice mindfulness to stay grounded. Engage in activities that replenish your spirit. Recognize that you are human and you have limitations. It's okay to feel overwhelmed sometimes. The courage to act also includes the courage to rest, to recharge, and to ask for help when you need it. By taking care of yourself, you ensure that your well of empathy and your will to act remain full and vibrant, enabling you to continue contributing to the world without sacrificing your own well-being. This is a marathon, not a sprint. Now, I won't sugarcoat it. The path of courageous empathy isn't always easy. In fact, it rarely is. There will be challenges, moments of doubt, and even times when you feel utterly disheartened. It's important to acknowledge these potential roadblocks so we can better navigate them. One of the biggest challenges is the sheer scale of global problems. It's easy to feel overwhelmed by the enormity of issues like climate change, poverty, or systemic inequality. You might think, what can my single act possibly accomplish against such massive forces? This feeling of insignificance can quickly lead to apathy. Another challenge is cynicism. You'll encounter people who are jaded, who believe that change is impossible or that people are inherently selfish. Their negativity can be contagious, chipping away at your own resolve. You might also face direct criticism or opposition, especially if your actions challenge the status quo. It takes courage to stand firm in your convictions when others are telling you to give up, or worse, attacking your motives.
So, how do we overcome these hurdles? First, focus on what you can do, not what you can't. Every major movement for change started with small, courageous acts by individuals. Your ripple effect might not be visible to you immediately, but it is real. Celebrate the small victories. Helping one person is still helping someone. Changing one mind is still progress. Second, seek out and connect with like-minded individuals. Surrounding yourself with people who share your values and your commitment to empathetic action can be incredibly empowering. They can offer support, share strategies, and remind you that you are not alone in this work. Collective courage is far more potent than individual courage. Third, educate yourself continuously, but also practice mindful consumption of information. Stay informed about the issues you care about, but avoid getting lost in a constant feed of negativity that can lead to burnout. Balance your awareness with proactive engagement. Use information to fuel your actions, not to paralyze them. Finally, remember the power of persistence. Change rarely happens overnight. It's a marathon, not a sprint. There will be setbacks, frustrations, and moments when you want to quit. But true courage lies in picking yourself up, dusting yourself off, and continuing the journey. Every consistent, empathetic act, no matter how small, contributes to the larger mosaic of a more just and compassionate world. Your courage is a seed. Persistence is the water that allows it to grow into a mighty tree. Imagine for a moment a world where Dr. Cornel West's vision of empathy is not just an aspiration, but a widespread reality. A world where empathy isn't a fleeting emotion, but a consistent, courageous force that drives our interactions, our policies, and our collective efforts. What would that world look like? In such a world, our conversations would shift. Instead of immediately demonizing those with opposing viewpoints, we would first seek to understand their fears, their hopes, and the experiences that shaped their beliefs. Debates would be less about winning and more about collective problem solving. We would listen with genuine curiosity, not just to respond. This would lead to more constructive dialogue and the bridging of divides that currently seem insurmountable. Our communities would be stronger. Neighbors would look out for neighbors, not out of obligation, but out of a deep-seated understanding of shared humanity. Vulnerable populations would not be seen as others to be pitied, but as fellow human beings deserving of dignity, support, and equitable opportunities. Resources would be distributed more fairly, and systemic inequalities would be actively dismantled because the collective will would be to ensure that no one is left behind. We would invest in preventative measures, understanding that addressing root causes of suffering is far more empathetic than simply reacting to crises. Education would prioritize not just academic knowledge, but emotional intelligence and ethical reasoning, nurturing courageous empathy from a young age. Our legal systems would focus not just on punishment, but on restorative justice, seeking to heal harm and reintegrate individuals. Businesses would operate with a triple bottom line: people, planet, and profit, recognizing their interconnectedness with society and the environment. This isn't a utopian fantasy. It's a profound possibility that begins with each one of us. It's built on the understanding that every act of courageous empathy, no matter how small, sends ripples through the fabric of society. It's about building a culture where caring is not seen as weakness, but as the ultimate strength, where vulnerability is met with compassion and injustice is met with an unwavering will to act. It's a world where the understanding of another's plight moves from a fleeting thought to a foundational principle of our shared existence. It's a world where the courage to step up, to speak out, to extend a hand is celebrated as our highest human endeavor. This is the world that Dr. West's words invite us to build, brick by empathetic brick. We've journeyed through the profound depths of Dr. Cornel West's statement. We've explored what it truly means when he says, empathy is not simply a matter of trying to imagine what others are going through, but having the will to muster enough courage to do something about it.
We've seen that passive empathy, while a starting point, is insufficient. True empathy demands more from us. It demands an active engagement, a willingness to confront discomfort, and above all, the courage to translate our feelings into meaningful action. We've heard stories that prove this is not just an academic concept, but a powerful, transformative force in the real world. And we've identified concrete steps each of us can take to cultivate this courageous empathy in our daily lives. So, as you go about your day, I urge you to carry these words with you. The next time you encounter someone in need or witness an injustice, ask yourself, am I simply imagining what they're going through? Or am I willing to muster enough courage to do something about it? Your something might be small. It might be a conversation, a donation, a shared resource, a moment of presence. But every something matters. Every act of courageous empathy contributes to the collective good. It builds the world we all wish to see. Thank you for joining me on this important discussion. If this video resonated with you, please hit that like button, share it with someone who needs to hear this message, and leave a comment below. What does courageous empathy mean to you?
How have you or someone you know put it into action? I'd love to hear your stories. And if you haven't already, please consider subscribing to the channel for more content that challenges us to think deeper and act bolder. Until next time, remember, be empathetic, be courageous, and above all, do something.